Wednesday. Welcome to Hump Day Hangouts with Semantic Mastery. Just kidding. That was in my mind because one of our partners with Content Kings, you might know him as Jeremy Notzelman of Press Advantage, hopped on a call the other day and was like, Sunday. So really had to channel my inner Jeremy there to get Hump Day Hangouts episode number 408 started. So now that I've hopefully got some energy going, Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm working on things like I don't know. I can't believe it's Wednesday. Like so many things happening. Like I don't know. Like I must be on like a roll or like flow state or what it's called. Time just flies, and yeah, it's actually good. Can't complain on things. Lots of things getting done, and yeah, super productive.
Nice. All right. Yeah, I was like, I'm a little bit past where I like being. I'm definitely looking forward to like slowing down after Pofu Live. I was talking to my wife and we just finished up a cross country move and that's just kind of added everything. I'm just like, I feel like I have, instead of have like, oh, I'm busy, I've crossed that line into like too many things. So it's like, okay, got to close them out and pull back. So
yeah, man, that's where the magic is happening.
Right. And speaking of too busy, I know somebody who's too busy. He's right here. Bradley, how's being too busy going?
It's busy. Yeah, I've got 2 weeks to finish my work for a live event, and I've got about 6 weeks of work to do in 2 weeks. So yeah, it's crazy. And then all the other work, that we've got going on and everything else. But it's exciting times. I agree with Chris. Time flies. I blink, like Monday starts and I blink and it's Sunday. You know what I mean? It's like the start of another week already. I'm like, what the fuck happened? And it's I guess like you said, when you're in that flow state, time just it flies, and that's how it feels like the entire year has gone this year for me. So anyway, glad to be here.
Good deal. Well, wanted to touch on something real quick. I just actually put this up on the page. Wanted to talk about Pofu Live real quick. So September 23rd, September 24th is Pofu Live 2022. And wanted to say too, if you want to get a VIP ticket, I highly encourage you to do that. We will be sending out an email, putting up a Facebook post about when that's going to be shutting down, which is going to be, let me check my calendar if I get this right, should be next week, end of next week. So if you're thinking about it, now's the time, go ahead, grab it. We can't keep those open until Pofu Live. We have to shut them down because we have to get everything together, ship stuff out to you, all that sort of good stuff. So if you want to come join us on a virtual beer tasting, if you live in the US, we will ship it to you. That is the beer for free. That's part of your ticket. You're going to join us, join the other speakers, and join the other VIP attendees. Great way to kick back, get to know everybody, have a lot of fun, maybe get some inside secrets before we kick off, and then come in and join us for the next full day with everybody else. So highly recommend you get your tickets now, especially the VIP ticket. Like I said, that'll be going away in about a week. So grab that now. Let me see. The other thing I wanted to touch on, speaking of having too many things on my plate, I didn't have my notes in front of me, so I don't have a whole lot to say. I just really wanted to touch on Pofu Live, as well as talk a little bit about Local Fury, just real quick, and ask you guys for your input. We've got a lot going on. We've been listening to feedback from people, and we're going to be making some changes. We've already updated, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, but I believe we've already updated the reporting, correct? Right. So we are now doing the advanced reporting.
It's still in progress. Yep. We had to switch over our reporting. We're using Bright Local. I haven't tried to hide that. We're using Bright Local for reporting, providing local search grid reports, and now Google Business Profile Audit, or GBP audit reports, which essentially just imports Google Insights data into Bright Local. So those are the two reports that we're providing, but we had to switch from a regular Bright Local account to an enterprise account. We've been working on that for the last 2 days, and by the close of business tomorrow, we should have our new enterprise account set up. It's been a lot of migration from one account type to another and all that. But anyway, growing pains, good problems to have. We're going to be changing our pricing structure before we kind of launch, when we do our next kind of promotion for this. Something we're going to be doing is including consultation calls. Started doing consultation calls with some of our subscribers at Local Fury that have submitted the most locations, but we're going to start making that standard operating procedure for new people that come into Local Fury. We're going to jump on at least initially, it will be me, a short consultation call so that we can get to know about the projects that you, the customer, will be submitting, as well as to provide some guidance on how to, how we operate so that you understand the process. I had my first consultation call on Monday with one of our subscribers, and it was a good call because I was telling Chris and our developer about this earlier today, but it was interesting because in the consultation call I had with him, he was asking some questions about a very particular thing, and he said that, hey, but when I do a brand search for this location, it's not popping a knowledge panel yet. And I was like, well, that's precisely why we start with brand searches as the CTR manipulation, which is only a small component of what we do. But when we do CTR manipulation, we do branded search and clicks to begin with, always, right? Especially for new or weak GMBs or Google business profiles where it's not an established entity yet. We start with branded search and click signals, and then what's called brand navigational search queries, all of that. And anyway, on the consultation call, he went over to an incognito window and did a brand search, and it popped a knowledge panel. And he was like, wow, that's the first time I've seen that. And I said, well, then of course, Local Fury's working, and that's precisely the point why I think these consultation calls are important, so that, it not only is it an opportunity for us to set expectations, but it's also an opportunity for us to educate our subscribers, our customers of Local Fury as to what our process is and why we do what we do and the way that we do it, which is a hell of a lot better and a lot more intelligent, the way that we apply these signals, than just hammering away at keyword search and clicks. I just recorded several today. I recorded 3 additional knowledge base tutorial videos that have now been added to the knowledge base in Local Fury, covering some of these topics, because it's very, very important that we set expectations and people understand why we do the things the way that we do it. So just very quickly on that, I just want to expand on that briefly. Like, for example, think about this, guys. Besides keyword selection, which I've talked a lot about for Local Fury members, which is, you don't go to Google Maps to do an informational search query. You don't go to Google Maps to gather information about a topic. You go to Google Maps to find a provider of a product or a service, or to find a location. Does that make sense? So keyword selection is critically important. You want to make sure that you're only selecting or entering keywords that have commercial intent, local intent, transactional type keywords, things that pop a maps pack. We talked about that. But even then, if your Google business profile is not found on the first page of maps results, which is the top 20 results for a keyword, then why would you want to submit that keyword as a search and click, start sending search and click signals to a Google Maps profile when that Google business profile is not ranked in the top 20 for that keyword? Is that a natural signal, or is that a completely fabricated, unnatural signal? Think about that. So why would you, and I'm just saying this kind of rhetorically, like the greater you, the proverbial you, why would you submit keywords that don't already have some exposure for? That's a completely unnatural, fabricated signal that obviously can be discredited or ignored, or potentially even a negative ranking signal, right? So what you want to do is you always want to start manipulating search queries that you're already getting impressions for. Full stop, right? Full stop. We don't need to discuss that any further. And so how do you push more keywords to start appearing, or your Google business profile to be given impressions for more search queries? You start with brand searches. You strengthen the entity, right? You add weight to the entity. And that is accomplished through navigational search queries, branded search queries, or brand plus navigational search queries. And so that's where we start with that. And so again, I think the consultation part of it is really going to be a critical component for our success, as well as your success as a subscriber of Local Fury, so that we are all on the same page. We set expectations. We understand that there is a process that we are following, and it's for a very intentional reason, and that there is a timeline in which we apply our process. And so I think that's critically important. So I'm excited about some of the changes we got coming on. I don't think we're going to do another promotion until after our live event. Is that correct, Adam?
Yeah, we wanted to make sure that we have the reporting up to date and the new stuff in place, and then we'll, schedule it so it's not penciled in even at this point.
Yeah. So we will kind of reveal what the new kind of offer is and all of that for those existing subscribers. We'll be reaching out and communicating with you as well. But I'm really looking forward to seeing how this goes as we make the process better.
Good deal. And I got two more quick things I wanted to say too. I always hop over to YouTube and tell people and pop it into the chat. But if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you come to semanticmastery.com/HDHO or /Hump Day and ask questions there. That way we guarantee that we see them. While we check out YouTube from time to time, that's not where we collect all the questions. So just want to make sure if you have questions that, you're always going to semanticmastery.com/HDHO. And that way too, you can bookmark that and always get the page. Whereas if it's YouTube, you've got to go, it's a different page each time. So hopefully if you're watching this, head over, join us and ask your question there. And something real quick, Bradley mentioned about the onboarding calls. It's also something we do with the mastermind, and that's not by accident. When people join the mastermind, or I think it was yesterday or today, somebody just joined the latest mastermind member. And so I was recording a quick intro video, just letting them know, hey, here's what you need to do. Here's who you can contact if you have any issues. And then the next steps is schedule a call with Bradley. So of course, you could ask him some questions as he's generously donating some of his time to help, new mastermind members and find out about what they're doing. But that's also a really important part of it as mastermind, to find out what you are doing, what do you need, and where can you get started. So if that's something you're interested in and you've heard about the mastermind, just know that there's a personal component. It's not just, hey, go join this group and hang out in the Facebook group and you'll figure it out. There is a part of that. We really believe in it, and we know that it works well for people to point them in the right direction. Cool. All right, guys. Anything else, or good to go?
I think we can jump into questions.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Speaking of YouTube, I am going to go grab that and head over to YouTube because I see a couple questions there.
All right. So we'll start with Cautious Newbie. I hate these stupid names.
I love them. This is great.
All right. Brand new local EMDs. So exact match domains. How long to get out of the roller coaster of rankings going up and down drastically? Longer than it used to take. That's for sure. My presentation for Pofu Live, our live event in 2 weeks, is entirely about local site building, or organic local lead gen that doesn't rely on Google business assets, right? And so it's about building a very particular structure of a website in a very particular format that I've developed, and then doing what I call the content mirroring method, which is mainly using Google properties, YouTube Blogger, Cloud Pages, and G Site and Drive Stack. So a Google site and Drive Stack. So it's creating like this content mirroring method, which I'm updating all of that training for the Pofu Live event. Anyway, all I'm saying is I've been working on this for months, and I've deployed 4 and starting on my 5th site now using this exact kind of format and structure. And I'm seeing like 2 months, actually going close to 10 weeks now of significant dancing for some of these sites. I'm finding I've built most of them using high-level website builder, and I suspect some of it has to do with that, because those sites have a bunch of bloated code and stuff like that. They're not as clean as WordPress, and WordPress can have bloated code too, by the way. But I've got a WordPress site being developed for that, specifically the sites in a particular structure, the one that I'm going to be sharing at Pofu Live. And I built a similar site, a similar structure in WordPress as one of my test sites for a client that I've been testing stuff with. And I'm still seeing a lot of volatile dancing for that, even 6 weeks. That one's only 6 weeks old, and it's still 6 weeks into that project. It's still seeing a lot of dancing. So I'm assuming the sandbox, I don't have any data to back this up other than just experience recently from deploying multiple sites that are not dependent on or do not have a Google business profile associated with them. So strictly organic ranking is what I'm talking about. And I'm seeing going on 10 weeks for some of the first sites that I built, but the WordPress site is we're 6 weeks into that and it's still dancing pretty wildly. So I feel like that kind of the probationary period for new domains or new sites that are launched is been a bit extended. Some people call it a sandbox, probationary period, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what the actual threshold is for that. There might be different factors that vary the time frame that it's in a sandbox. I don't know, other than my own personal experience. For the longest time, guys, all I ever worked on was Google Maps assets, Google Business stuff. I really didn't care about organic stuff, but more recently, because of 2022, in the United States, at least, it's very difficult to verify Google Business profiles unless you have a real valid business location. And obviously, a big part of my business is lead gen, and I want it to continue to be that. So I started developing and testing other methods that don't require Google Business assets. The reason I'm mentioning this is because with Google Business assets, I found that the kind of probationary period isn't as it doesn't. I didn't experience the amount of time that it's taking for organic only projects to kind of settle in, right, to where they're going to rank. I'm seeing just a lot more volatility when it's only an organic site without a Google Business asset attached to it. Does that make sense? In other words, when it has a Google Business asset associated with that entity, it tends to stabilize a bit quicker, at least in my experience. Again, I have limited experience with doing organic projects only until recently. And in my recent testing, I'm seeing that kind of probationary, a lot of volatility for as many as 10 weeks now. But the kind of when the more recent project that was built in WordPress is now going on 6 weeks, and it's still seeing some significant dancing. So I don't know what the actual time frame is. Somebody else that is attending might have an actual definitive answer on that. But I am noticing it's taking longer than it used to. So I don't know. I'm not sure what the time frame is on that, but it makes sense, I think, for Google to continue to extend the probationary period a little bit more. I mean, that's not good for any of us as SEOs. We all want to see results quicker, like sooner than later. But it does make sense for them to extend the probationary period a little bit more, reduces spam. So also, what is the best way to index cloud links? Mine are taking forever. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I've been using Index Me Now for forever. I've noticed it's taken a little bit longer to index some stuff too. Another one that I can't remember, I don't remember where I got this one from, but so forgive me, but Indexation, it's called. It's another, just like Index Me Now is a French company. This one's also a French company. So I don't know what it is about France being like the indexing kings now, but apparently they are. Because Index Me Now has been working very, very well. It's expensive. So is Indexation. I heard this was working really good. I have not used this. On full transparency, full disclosure, I have not used this, but I've heard, I can't remember where I heard it now, but somebody was saying that this one was working really well for them also. But this is comparable as far as the expense as Index Me Now is. So some of the other things that I found that help index is traffic signals. If you're doing any sort of CTR manipulation, click-through rate manipulation, sending referral traffic from things like Twitter or from other Google assets. So like perhaps through a Google Business post or something like that then clicking through to the cloud page, that can help it to index. So, I mean, there's a few things that can be done to help a cloud page index. I don't know how far you'd want to go with it, but you could do other things like you could try to add Search Console, which I've not done that, but you could potentially add like Google Tag Manager or something like that. Again, just adding Google code to a page can help Google come crawl it. So that's another thing that could be done. But basically what I've been doing is just Index Me Now, and then also sending referral traffic. So, and this is the one that I typically use right here as soon as it loads. This one. This is the one I've been using. It's really expensive as well. But what I do like about this is they refund the credits if they don't index in like 7 days or 10 days, then they'll refund the credits. So although it's expensive, and you don't want to do this for mass, if you're doing like cloud stacks with dozens or hundreds of pages, that's not what this is for. This would be for the buffer page or the top of the stack, right? So what I just call a cloud page. And I don't do a lot of cloud stacks. I just do mainly cloud pages because I build links to my cloud pages with semantic links, right? The topically relevant links. So I don't really do a lot of cloud stacks. I just do mainly cloud pages, and then I do link building to the cloud pages with my links. But for these, like I said, I buy $1,000 at a time because it brings it down to 49 cents per index, per link indexed. But it's expensive, like I said, but it works. It works mostly. Some of them that are indexing slower or more difficult to index is like Google Cloud Storage, even AWS. So S3, Amazon S3 is indexing slower. Azure, which is Microsoft, that tends to index fairly quickly. I'm still not using all of the cloud hosts that are in Yaks. I think we're using 4, maybe 5: Wasabi, Linode, AWS, Google Cloud Storage, and Azure. So we're just using 5 right now. That's all we've really had the need for. And Azure indexes the quickest out of all of them for sure. So anyways, like I said, traffic signals is also a good, like referral traffic, especially from like a Google business asset or even like a tweet could probably help as well. I don't do much Twitter stuff, but that I'm fairly sure years ago, Twitter was also like when in the past, when there's been indexing issues, Twitter's always been a good source. If you have a real Twitter profile with real followers and all that kind of stuff, not fake spam shit, but like a real Twitter profile that tends to work as well. I don't know if that will work for Cloud Pages. I don't do a lot of Twitter stuff, but I know in the past when there's been indexing issues, Twitter has also been a good solution for that. So you may want to consider that. Try doing Jesper's, what do they call them? Twitter moments. That might be something else that could help index, is putting your cloud links into a Twitter moment, because Twitter moments will index quickly and Google will crawl that obviously for it to index, which means it's going to crawl those cloud links too, right? So that might be something else you try. Again, I don't do much Twitter stuff. I just really have no desire to. I know I should, but I never had any. I just never liked Twitter, never have. I don't really care to use it, although I know it's powerful for SEO. I just never really had the desire to do it. So next one, I use Local Viking to post one spun content item a day. I have a 45-day repeating calendar, heavy spin tax. Should I continue to do this, or will I get better results via manual posting? You know, I don't know. There's, we do that. In the past, I would have said, yeah, just keep doing it because it's about activity. Well, I call those activity posts. They're not really all that great for SEO, but they're good just for like freshness factor, right? Posting regularly to your Google business profile. Google likes to see an active Google business profile, which posting can help with that. But I know that Google is more recently, like we have a series of templates that I had created for my writing team, my VAs, for publishing Google posts. So it's like, we've got a dozen, 15 or so kind of templates that are tokenized that we use for Google business posts. So they just go in and in a notepad or a text file, they go in and use the find and replace function to swap out the tokens with the appropriate keywords, brand name, location modifiers, etc. So, and we've been using those for 4 or 5 years, and they've been working great. More recently, like in the past month or two, probably 2 months now, we've been noticing more and more of those scheduled posts are being rejected. It's not really all that harmful, but what I mean is if you go into Google Business Dashboard and you go to the post section, we're seeing, 1 out of every 4 or 5 of those are now being rejected, which they were never rejected before. So why is that? Well, it could be a number of things. It could be Google is detecting that they're basically duplicated posts that have already been published on that profile before, or it could be the image. If it's a duplicated image, like, so for example, a lot of my clients, no matter how many times I try to get them to send me original photos, they just won't, which I don't understand, but help me help you, right? Help me help you. So all you got to do is snap a couple photos on the job and upload them to a shared Google Photos album. That's all we need. And you just get in the habit, 2 or 3 photos on every job. You snap 2 or 3 photos every single job. We will always have an endless supply of unique images. But for whatever reason, I can only get 1 out of every 10 clients to do that. So we have limited amount of photos that we use over and over and over again for Google business posts. So is it the photos, the duplicated photos that are causing the rejections, or is it the content? Haven't really isolated it yet. I think it might be a combination of the two. So to get back to your question, as I used, for a long time, I would say, yeah, just, activity posts are important. I don't know that you need to do one once per day. I guess it depends on the industry. We just for activity posts just do one per week now for most stuff. Some clients are paying for 2 or 3 posts per week, and in which case we'll post 2 or 3 times per week. But we are now starting to do more and more kind of original posts as opposed to like an automated. I know that kind of sucks, but it is what it is to get better results. So we're using, Article Forge can do okay because with a 250 word output with Article Forge, those can do fairly good for, like, it depends on the industry, but those work okay for Google Business Posts. Again, if you know what Article Forge is, you can try a 250 word output. You plug in your primary keyword and a couple of supporting keywords to clarify intent. For those of you that have used Article Forge, you know what I'm talking about. You have a primary keyword, and then you're supposed to add like 2 or 3 supporting keywords that clarify the intent of the original seed keyword. And then it will spit out 250-ish words of content that can be trimmed down a little bit. Generally, you're going to have to trim it down a little bit because there's going to be something in there that's not relevant or whatever that doesn't really make sense. Long story short, you end up with a fairly unique, decent Google Business post that ranges between 200 to 225 words once it's been cleaned up, which is about the average, right? Google Business Post can take up 1,500 words of text, 1,500 characters, which comes out to be roughly 200 to 225 words of content. So again, an Article Forge output of 250 words tends to work pretty good for Google Business Post once you trim out the nonsensical shit that sometimes it spits out. You end up with around 200 to 225 words. So that works pretty good. Another method is Jasper. If you're using Jasper, I have a love-hate relationship with Jasper. There's no question, but they have a Google Business Post, which is, it's not really an SEO post. It's more promotional type like output, but they have a recipe or whatever they call it, a template, a recipe, whatever you call it, that you can go in and select for Google Business Post. And you put in the company name, brief description of what you want the post to be about, a keyword or 2, and then boom, you hit go and it spits out pretty decent posts. They're fairly unique. They're more promotional than they are SEO type of content, but that's okay because again, for activity posts, it's not necessarily about the SEO value of the post as it is about just being active, publishing regularly, right? So, yeah. So again, back to the question, should you be doing this on a daily basis? I don't know if you're not. I would test with it. I don't know that you need to do one every day. Again, it depends on the industry. In my case, in tree service stuff, that's way overkill. One a week is really all that's really needed. And we're doing more manual stuff now. Like I said, I've got a VA that has been using templates, but we're finding that the frequency that we're getting rejected posts is occurring more often now. So it's either an image issue or it's the content or a combination of both, right? Next question. I have a question about the RYSR drive stack with the G site section mentioned in the Battle Plan 4.0. Did you mean that the branded stack should be done on the official Google account for my brand? It doesn't matter. The same one that has claimed the GMB listing? No, it doesn't matter because you can always add whoever the Google account that claimed the Google business listing or is the owner of the Google business listing can be added as an editor to the drive stack. It doesn't matter where the drive stack originates from. It could be a free Gmail account that you create specifically for that drive stack to create a drive stack. That's fine. Once it's created, you can always add your main Google profile or the Google profile for the Google account that manages or owns the Google business profile. You can add that as an editor, and then you can even transfer ownership to that account if you want. It's not necessary, but you can, as long as it's not a workspace account. The difference, there is an issue where you can't transfer ownership from a regular Gmail account to a workspace account and vice versa, right? You can share it, you can give editing permissions, but you can't transfer ownership from a workspace account to a regular Gmail account or vice versa. There is a restriction there. But as long as you're using just regular Gmail accounts, then yeah, you can either add the Google business profile account, the Google account as either an editor or transfer ownership entirely if you want. It doesn't really matter. It's up to you. Said, I remember seeing a Q&A video on your YouTube channel mentioning that even branded RYS stacks should be with a persona account to be safe. However, if I'm still including links to the branded syndication network on the branded stack, I don't quite see the point to use another account. Also, for this branded stack, do you recommend linking directly to the money site and the associated YouTube channel as well? Or would the GMB listing be preferable as the main URL? No, you want to link back to the money site too. You want to link to all of the above, right? Remember, the guys, the G site is a Google property that you want to do all of your, you want to include all of your branded profiles, right? That makes up your local entity. You want to include all of that, just like the ID page, right? It's a place, it's a Google property. So you want to put all of your entity assets into that Google property, which includes your money site, your Google business website, if you have it, your Google business map, your ID page, press advantage organization page, if you're using that. If you're not, then cloud pages are a decent substitute. Batch geomaps, if you're doing that, like all of those things, your branded blogger profile, your other branded syndication network properties, whether you're syndicating or not, it doesn't matter. Your other branded Web 2.0 properties, social media assets, all of that. Citations, you can extract citations in the mastermind. I've done some updated training on that, how you can take the G sheet from the Drive stack and then you add all of your citation URLs that then you hyperlink to keywords, a list of keywords. All of that stuff should be included in your Drive stack, so your G site, as well as like your ID page. Those are like entity validating assets where you put all of your entity's assets into them, either linked to or embedded into those assets, right? Because especially Google properties, because you want Google to make, remember guys, you are trying to assist Google in making the association between all of your branded assets for a particular local entity or local brand. Does that make sense? You want to help Google recognize and make the associations that those are also your branded assets. It's different. You want to expand your entity footprint and you want to help Google discover that footprint. It's not like people say in SEO, like a footprint's a bad thing. In traditional SEO, yeah, like for link building and things like that, yeah. But when we're talking about entities, you really want, in branded assets, branded entity assets, you want to make those associations and help Google to make those associations, right? Which it's like adding nodes to the knowledge graph. That's precisely what you're doing. So you want to associate those profiles in any way that you can with each other, which again, ID page is perfect for that. The Drive stack, the G site, all of those are perfect places to do that. Schema, structured data, that's another place to do it, which is at the code level, right? You again, same as attributes. Those are all like great ways to associate branded profiles for the same entity. So absolutely, you want to do that with your G site. Link back to your money site too. Again, you want that association to be made. You're trying to assist Google in developing or building the knowledge graph for your local entity. That's the whole point. Okay, it's a good question. Hey guys, what are some things we can do to influence organic ranking of pages above the GMB3 pack? That's a good question. That's what I found is it depends on the query. If it's a query that could be both local intent, but also informational intent. In other words, there are some unique situations where a keyword could be both a keyword with local intent, right? That could pop a maps pack, but it could also be a keyword that somebody is searching for information gathering, as opposed to trying to find a provider of a product or a service. There are some cases where that occurs, and that's where I'll see organic pages ranking above the maps pack, because Google is not 100% sure about what the intent of that search query was. So it lists both, right? Both an informational query or results that will satisfy the informational query, or local results to satisfy if it was a transactional query or somebody looking for a provider of a product or service to solve whatever that problem is. Does that make sense? It's in those kind of circumstances where you'll see both organic and maps. Like you'll see organic perhaps ranked above maps because Google's trying to satisfy the intent and it's not sure. So that's where I see that the most often. It's very rare that I see a keyword that is absolutely a keyword with local intent. It's very rare to ever see something ranked above the maps pack other than ads. Does that make sense? So I don't know that can be intentionally manipulated. I don't know. because generally, like I said, it depends on what the intent of the search query was as to what the layout of the SERP or the search engine results page is. If it's a keyword with strictly local intent, it's going to pop a maps pack just below the ad section. Like I don't think I've ever seen a organic ranking above a maps pack if it is a purely search query with local intent, a pure local intent, right? It's only those kind of keywords that are like sitting on the line, right? That are straddling both sides of the fence that Google's not sure about what the intent is. So it displays both results, right? So I don't know that you can influence that. I don't know what you can do to influence that. I don't know. Become the topical authority, maybe? I don't know. It's a good question. I'm just not sure about if that can even be done. Like, can you intentionally manipulate an organic ranking to be above the local maps pack if it's a local search query, like a search query with local intent? I don't know that would happen at all. I don't know that there's anything you can do to influence that. Maybe, but I don't know what it is. And it's very rare that you see that anyway. So unless it's a keyword, like I said, that is Google's not sure about what the intent of that query is. Hi, all. I purchased your local GMB or purchased GMB Local Pro. You mean local GMB Pro course, and have had success with doing posts in geo settings and uploading pictures. I've been told that Google has been stripping. And this question comes up over and over and over again. It's so funny. Google has been stripping the geotags from the pictures after they have been uploaded to my GMB. Is this correct? Yes, it is correct. If yes, does this mean it is pointless to do the geo settings now? Thanks, Andrew. No, it's funny that this question does come up often. Look, Google does strip the geo data from the images when you upload it, but it reads that data upon upload. So in my opinion, it's worth it. It just takes a minute. If you've got, by the way, shit, I forgot to mention that, Adam. We have Lloyd Farrell from Mass Optimizer. He also, he was gracious enough to give us a special for 3-pack hunter for local Fury members. Well, for anybody in Semantic Mastery, really. Yeah. But he also gave us somebody reached out to me and said, hey, since you now are communicating with Lloyd,
right. Yeah.
Mass Optimizer. Yeah.
Did we get a we
back? Do. I think it's in SM Short Link. Check it out.
Yeah, let me grab that.
Anyway, Mass Optimizer is Lloyd Farrell's geotagging software for images and videos and things like that. I've been using it for 4 or 5 years now, for a long time. That's what I use. I've done training using some free software like GeoSetter and things like that, but I've been using for my own business, for my own agency. We've been using Mass Optimizer for years. It's great service, but it had a month. Well, I got it on lifetime when he first launched it. But anyway, long story short, it's been on monthly subscription for the last couple of years. Well, Lloyd was gracious enough to give us a lifetime offer for. Did you find the link, Adam, by chance?
I did. I am putting it on the page.
Okay, cool. So we have a lifetime deal now. I think it's $297. I think.
Yeah, let me go
for
check
Mass
it
Optimizer.
out.
Anyway, it's available now. Adam's going to post a link in chat. I would check out Mass Optimizer. So getting back to your question, especially with Mass Optimizer, it's super easy to geotag dozens, hundreds of photos all in one fell sweep. I mean, it's super easy to do. You can do random Latin long points within a specific geo radius. That's what we do. We do with the CSV, what they call pinpoint optimization. It's a CSV upload where in the first column you have all the keywords that you want to rename the images after, and then in column 2 you put your geo coordinates. And I have a random Latin long generator that I use. So I set a radius around a particular location, and then I say generate 150 random Latin long points within that radius, and it will. And then I just extract that data and add it to a CSV file along with 150 keywords, and then upload that to Mass Optimizer along with a folder that has 150 images, and I hit go. Boom. In about 5 minutes, every single one of those images will have been updated. The titles, the metadata, name, address, and phone number in the description, copyright URLs, linking to the Google Business Assets, Google Business website, G sites, search query URLs, all kinds of stuff like that. And then it will random Latin long points, right? So it only takes a few minutes to prepare all of that, like under 10 minutes. And then you have everything geotagged. When you upload it to Google Business, Google reads that data. Yes, it strips it out, but it reads it upon import or upon upload. So in my opinion, it only takes a couple of minutes to prepare. And it's like, the way I look at it, guys, is everybody wants to take shortcuts. I get it. I understand. You want to be efficient with your business. I get that. But you also want to outdo your competitors. And if you think about it, if it just takes an extra 10 minutes to prepare a set of images with geotagging for geotagging, then why not spend that extra 10 minutes and have a little bit of an advantage over your competitors that aren't doing that, right? So in my opinion, it's a very small price to pay for a competitive advantage. So yes, it does strip the data out. We've known that for a long time, but in my opinion, it reads the data upon import. So you're just giving or upon upload. So it's you're just adding a little bit more geo relevance to the profile. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's right. We're gonna have to do a proper promotion of Mass Optimizer after.
Yeah,
Pofu
and it was
Live.
a hell of a deal. It's 197.
Oh wow, that's even better. I thought it was 297. That's even better. So yeah, Lloyd's been really gracious for the Semantic Mastery audience lately, and I certainly appreciate that. So okay, moving on. Hey guys, I own a strong, well-ranked SEO agency website in the UK, and I want to start expanding as I have a lot of traffic in the US, etc. How can I clone my site onto a .com domain while retaining my .co.uk? Content is relevant to both areas. How can I easily pull this off within WordPress? Do I need the href language, canonical, etc.? I have thousands of pages, so I want to use something automatic to sync things to avoid manual work wherever possible. Thanks, I appreciate any advice on this. That's a good question. I'm not sure I have a good answer for that. I mean, I'm not sure. I'd have to think about that, and I would probably have to consult with some others because I don't. I mean, other than some link building clients, all the SEO work I've ever done has been in the US. So I'm just not sure. I mean, I would almost say just duplicate the site onto a .com and then canonicalize the pages from the .com over to the .co.uk that are relevant only to the so in other words, the pages that are relevant specifically to the UK, I would still have those pages on the .com site, but canonicalized so that it's pushing credit over there. And then similarly, the pages that are relevant, that are on the UK site that are relevant exclusively to the US, if it's relevant to both, then I don't know what you would do other than to just have them both published, right? If you think about that, remember, duplicate content, it's not really a thing. There's original and copy, right? And that really only causes problems when it's on the same domain. If you have duplicate content or original, if you have copied content on the same domain, if you have it on two separate domains, it's not really an issue. Well, if it was, then press releases would never work, right? Syndicated content, guys, and we've been talking about this for years. So it might make sense to just have both of them published. But what I'm saying is, if you have content that's on the UK site that's really only relevant to the US, then I would canonicalize those pages to the US pages, the .com pages, and then similarly from the .com US site over to the UK site, if there were pages on that site that were mostly relevant to just the UK, if that makes sense. But why not? I don't really have a good answer to that because I've just not done it, what you're attempting to do. But why not just clone the site onto a .com and see what happens? I mean, I know you don't want to lose any. The thing is, if you were to clone the site onto a .com and get it to index in the US, my guess is that nothing negative would happen to the UK site. But if it did, you could always, unpublish, take down the UK site, the US site on the .com domain to see if that was it, right? Like, in other words, if you experience a negative drop, negative movement in the UK site from cloning it onto a .com site and then having both published and indexed, if you see a drop, then couldn't you just unpublish that site? I mean, that might be something else that you could do just to test it and see. And it should come back fairly quickly. If that's the case, that would be an algorithmic occurrence, in my opinion, not a manual thing. You know what I mean? And I don't think that it's going to cause a problem anyways, to be honest with you, but I wouldn't know without testing. It's just my assumption it wouldn't cause a problem because it's geographically so different, if that makes sense. So I don't know. I would just test it. Like I said, if there were pages that were specific to the UK site but were published on both, then I would canonicalize from the US site to the UK site and then vice versa. But anything that would have served dual purpose, that would be valid in both locations, just leave them published in both and see what happens. I don't know that it's going to cause a problem, but you could quickly remedy it if it did by just unpublishing that site or those pages, if that makes sense, on the .com domain. Anyway, that's a good one. I really don't know. I'd have to ask around some other people that have more experience with that type of a scenario. Ask them, do you know of any good WordPress plugins to generate an HTML sitemap to a new page separate to the XML sitemap from Yoast? I used to use one called HTML sitemap. I haven't used it in years, but let's just go do HTML sitemap. Yeah, I don't know. I just click through, I mean, you guys can do this, but that's interesting too. Simple Sitemap is a free plugin that lets you add an HTML sitemap to your WordPress website. That might be another one. It's called Simple Sitemap. Oh, and that's what this one is. It was last updated 2 months ago. I'd try this one. Try it and see. I don't see why not. The one that I thought maybe it just says, I don't know, the one that I used to use in WordPress, it would just say HTML sitemap in the sidebar area. So I thought it was just called HTML sitemap, but it might have been titled something else. It might have been this one. I don't know. I don't remember it being this one, but it might have been this one. But yeah, just do a Google search, man. Find HTML sitemap plugin for WordPress. Read through a couple of them. Find one that you want to test and test it. Also, let's see. All-in-one SEO apparently is another plugin that will do that. I didn't know that because I don't use that. Yeah, it looks like they're just talking about 2 plugins here: Simple Sitemap and then All-in-one SEO. So don't know. Yeah, I just try that. Okay, next question. Would it be effective to power up our press releases with exact match keyword anchor PBN links? I don't know, because that question, there's too many questions left from that question, right? There's too many questions coming out of that question is what I'm saying. So what kind of PBN links? What are the PBN links relevant? Are they topically relevant? And if they are topically relevant, are they topically relevant only at the page level or at the domain level too? Does that make sense? There's so many. Here's the thing: not all links are created equal. So, a shitty PBN link on a domain that PBN that has dozens of different topics, that link is not going to be nearly as valuable as a link from a PBN that is 100% topically relevant. So, what kind of PBN links are you using? What is the relevance of that, more so than the metrics? Right? Because remember, metrics are third-party proprietary metrics that Google doesn't give a damn about. Google doesn't give a shit about Ahref metrics. Google doesn't care about Moz's metrics. Google doesn't care about Majestic's metrics, and Majestic is the tool that I use. Google doesn't care about any of that. What it does care about, though, is topical relevance, which is why I use Majestic, because it's the only tool that provides a measure of topical relevance, which is known as topical trust flow. So, and again, that's not perfect. It's just it's not perfect. There are flaws in Majestic's topical trust flow evaluation, but it is a pretty good indicator that is fairly accurate of topical relevance. And I found that to be the best of out of the different backlink analysis tools for identifying or measuring topical relevance. Again, it is not perfect, but it's a pretty good indicator. It's fairly accurate. And so that's what I like to use, is that one. But again, Google doesn't give a shit about trust flow metrics or topical trust flow either. It really doesn't. Those are, again, proprietary metrics. So I don't care about what the metrics are, but I do care about the relevance. That's what matters to me. So are the PBN links topically relevant? And if they are relevant, at which level? Just the page level or both the page and the domain level? If you can get a link that is relevant at both the page level and domain level, it's going to be a much more valuable link. It's going to produce better results. As far as what kind of anchor text to use, that's going to vary too. I'll point this out. I like to I like to share this one. And Adam, there's a local link building diagram link in SM short link. Could you grab that, please?
Sure.
Paste that on the, where is it? Semantic mastery. There it is. This is what Adam's going to paste a link for, guys. This is what I call the local link building diagram. And so you're asking about, like, so a press release would be a tier 1 link if it's linking directly to your money site, which I think you said in your question that it is, because you're using a naked URL, URL anchor, which is a naked URL anchor that's pointing back to your money site. And so that would be a tier 1 link then from the press release, right? And so that's a brand/URL anchor. And that's what I would classify it as. One of 5 anchor text categories are the types that I use. So we use brand/URL anchors, anchor text category number 1. Number 2 is miscellaneous, or another term for that would be generic. Number 3 is empty/frame anchors, which would be iframes or redirects or image links without alt text. Number 4 is target anchors. Number 5 is topic anchors. Target anchors being keyword plus location modifier, topic anchors being keyword only, if that makes sense. So those are the 5 types of anchor text categories that I classify every anchor text into, one of those 5 categories. So brand/URL is anchor text category number 1, a URL anchor from a press release going to your money site. That'd be a tier 1 brand/URL anchor. So at tier 2, I like to use mainly target anchors, which is keyword plus location modifier, right? So that would be either keyword plus city or city plus keyword, if we're talking about local, or keyword plus near me, or one of the variants of near me. So nearby, in my area, close to me, around me, etc. Any one of those modifiers is what creates a target anchor. So keyword plus location modifier. Does that make sense? So, and this does not mean that all of the tier 2 links that we build are target anchors. This is just the majority of them are. So we'll do, like, 1 out of every 4 links will be tier 2 links will be a topic anchor, which is keyword only without location modifier. Does that make sense? But you could also potentially do some branded anchors at tier 2 to link to the press release if the press release is entirely optimized for a particular brand. It does make sense to consider using a brand anchor at tier 2 as well, right? But, again, you got to mix it up. So if you're going to, like, for example, if we're going to build 4 tier 2 links to a tier 1 with a brand URL, and I don't like to use URL anchors at all. I don't like to use URL anchors direct to the money site. I'll use the brand name, or what I call a compound anchor, which would be brand plus something else, either brand plus the city name or brand plus keywords or product or service, things like that. I like to do that. I don't like to use naked URLs anymore. I don't like to do it. I don't think it's relevant. I like to add relevance through the anchor text, which is why I like to use, if ever in doubt, just go with the brand anchor. Guys, I talk about this a lot in, with my link building clients as well as in the mastermind, but I'm managing over 70 different locations for link building alone now. And it's funny, but the 80-20 rule applies. 80% of the time, the projects that I'm analyzing for link building or whatever, the average anchor text ratios of the top 5 organic ranked competitors for whatever search query it is that we're analyzing, the anchor text ratios are 80% of the time between 40 to 60% brand anchors. So that's why I say, if you're ever in doubt about what type of link to build direct to the money site, go with a brand anchor, or what type of anchor text to use when linking directly to the money site. Just go with the brand anchor. And again, I don't like to use URL anchors. I prefer using the brand name or a compound brand plus keyword, brand plus location modifier, whatever, as my anchor. I don't like to use URL anchors anymore. So my point is that, again, whenever in doubt, build a brand anchor to the money site, and then you do tier 2 where you start to use your keyword anchors. So target and or topic anchors. Those are your keyword anchors. Does that make sense? And you want to mix it up. So like I said, if we were going to build 5 links to this one tier 1 link, then I might do 3 targets and 2 topics, or 4 targets and 1 topic, or 3 targets and 1 topic and perhaps 1 brand. It depends on what the content is optimized for at this level. If it's fully a branded a post or an article, a press release that's entirely optimized for that brand, then it makes sense to use a brand anchor also out here. Does that make sense? So there's a lot of variables here when it comes to, will it help? Maybe. Are the PBN links relevant? If they are relevant, are at which level? At just a page level or page and domain? That should be the most important thing. Number 1, the relevant links. Then your anchor text, like I said, if you're using a URL anchor, it still falls in the brand/URL anchor text category number 1. Then I would, at tier 2, I would do a mix of target and topic anchors. Does that make sense? And I do mostly target anchors at tier 2, but I do mix some topic anchors in at tier 2 as well. Then at tier 3, if you go out to tier 3, which isn't usually necessary unless in the most competitive areas or most competitive keywords, then we focus almost entirely on topic anchors, which are keywords without location modifiers. If that makes sense. Okay, it's a good question. All right, next, we're going to run out of time. Do you think having a website with individual pages for service plus city will affect them detrimentally with Google's new algorithm that was recently rolled out regarding content that would be considered posted just for ranking purposes? No, because no, and that's the helpful content update. But here's the thing, guys, Google understands, like, if a plumber serves, 5 cities within a county, right? So 5 cities within one county, then, and they serve, if they have a separate page, a location page for each city that they serve, and they do, they list their plumbing services, it's the same plumbing services that they offer to all 5 cities, all 5 locations within their service area. So, each page should be optimized for its own that particular area, but the services haven't changed, right? So it doesn't make sense for Google to like penalize a site because they have location specific pages that are covering the same topics that their main, their kind of like services page cover, if that makes sense. Like, in other words, there's location pages and then perhaps a service page. So the service page is going to describe all the services that plumber provides, but not necessarily for anyone, like optimized or assigned to any one location. It's just, here's the services we offer in a summary of each. But then the location pages are, here's the services we offer specific to this location. It's going to be the same services. It's just going to be optimized for that location, right? Well, I mean, it makes sense to me that Google is not going to penalize a location page when it's kind of repeating what the service page says, but it's just optimized for that location because the services didn't change. Same services, just different location. So will Google opt out or penalize you for doing that? I don't know. I don't work for Google. In fact, Google's engineers probably don't know whether it's actually going to cause a problem or not. But best practice has been, always has been, to optimize specific pages for the location. If that makes sense. And I'm going to continue doing that, especially when you're talking about Google Maps rankings, guys. You want to add location relevance or geo relevance, geographic relevance. And I talk about this with link building clients all the time. It's, similar like with link building, there's topically relevant links, and then there's locally or geographically relevant links. Topically relevant links affect organic ranking, full stop, no matter what kind of project it is. Local, national, global, affiliate, e-com, period. Topically relevant links are what affect organic ranking. Topically relevant links have a influence on maps ranking, but what has a bigger effect on maps ranking are geographic relevance, links from geographically relevant sources, meaning other companies in the same local area or then the same kind of general region. So local chamber of commerce, local news and media sites, other companies that your business that they do business with in their same local area. Those have a greater influence, whether they're topically relevant or not doesn't matter. It's the geographic relevance that influences maps ranking. So the same kind of thing occurs with the on-page factors, right? You want to add geo-relevance to those location pages as much as possible. And you want separate pages for each location because that's how you add and build the geo-relevance to those specific locations, especially for maps, right? We're going to be talking a lot about this at Pofu Live, actually, with the organic site structure that I built. It's really, the structure that I built for the site template is very... it just pushes so much geo-relevance across the entire site. It associates every service with every location and every location with every service. And it's a flat site. There's no silo structure on it. There can be, but the way that I have it built out, and again, I'll cover this at Pofu Live. It's pretty powerful. So, but anyway, yeah, no, I don't know what Google's going to do. I mean, we can only speculate, and I'm not going to do that. Just wait and see what happens. I'm going to continue optimizing location pages, though, the way that I have been. And, if it changes, then it changes, and we'll figure it out at that time. But I'm not going to speculate on that. Although there was a pretty good article that I posted in the Facebook group. This one I thought was interesting. It's an interesting take, guys. Nobody knows yet, but this is a pretty good, interesting take on the helpful content update. Again, it's just an interesting take on it. So I'll post this on the page. And it's probably going to tell me I got to sign in. No, okay, there we go. Okay, I think we're almost done. Yeah, we're at 5 o'clock. So Tim and One says, what does it take to get to show a Google Knowledge Panel as a book author? I'm not sure. Well, it's about the entity. You need to, the book author has to become an entity in Google, right? So that can be achieved through a number of things, but citations or mentions, links, things like that. So on authoritative sources, getting, having a profile for the author on various sources. Links can do that. So link building can do that. There's a number of things. It's about having that person being recognized as an entity by Google. And so just the same way you would get a brand to be recognized as an entity, you do the same thing for an author, right? Or a person. It's the same principles apply, right? So it's about strengthening the entity, getting having that author's profile on multiple places, different profiles, and again, helping Google to, as I was talking about earlier, about you want to increase or expand your entity footprint. The same thing occurs for a person. Remember, person, place, or thing, entity. So whether it's a company or a person, it doesn't matter. It's an entity, right? So the same thing occurs. You want to get branded profiles or profiles for that person, that persona, on a bunch of different properties, and then help Google make those associations to recognize that it is indeed that same person on all of these other platforms. How do you do that? Well, again, like a Google site, for example, using a Google site, it's a Google property. If you have a Google business asset, I don't know that you could do that for an author, maybe, I don't know, but that would be another way to do it, right? And you start linking out from those Google profiles or Google assets out to the profiles where that author is also on, like Twitter, Tumblr, YouTube, SoundCloud, if they do audio stuff, podcasts, anything like that. You want to link out to those profiles from Google assets if possible, so that it helps Google to make the association that this is the same entity. And when you do enough of that, then all of a sudden Google will recognize that author as an entity, and it should start to pop a knowledge panel. That makes sense. Alfredo, what's up, buddy? He says, Bradley, is there any plans to do a content writing tool, SOP, on how to optimize a tool like OnPage for what we do, like GMB website or content writing? Well, no, Alfredo, the reason why is because, as I talked about in the mastermind webinar, not last week, but 2 weeks ago, or the previous mastermind webinar, there are too many tools out there. If I do an SOP for one tool like OnPage AI, what's going to happen? Next thing you know, everybody and their brother are going to be requesting that I do an SOP for every freaking tool out there on the market, which are a dime a dozen now. And so, no, I'm not going to do that. What's more important is to teach how to use any one of these tools, like the method, the principle behind it. Like, how do you get the best use out of any one of these tools? It doesn't matter what the tool is. It's about how you use the tool, right? And so I taught about that 2 weeks ago, or not last mastermind webinar, but the one before that. So I would go back, and the problem with this, like I said, if I do an SOP on one tool, next thing you know, I'm going to be doing SOPs for every tool out there because I'm going to get the requests, and I'm just not going to do that. It's not the best use of my time. Better is to learn the proper procedure, which is the most important thing, is develop a really good outline. You do that, and any one of these tools will work well if you have a really good outline. Okay, that's a good question, but I'm sorry I can't do that, just because otherwise I'll be doing SOPs for that shit nonstop. Last one, saw a video by a popular link builder saying that cloud stacks are no longer valuable. Thoughts? Yeah, that's an opinion. I'd like to see the data that they say to prove that. I think that's bullshit, to be honest with you. Cloud stacks, cloud. I don't do much of the cloud stacks, but I do cloud pages, and they are absolutely still valuable. So.
Sounds like somebody wanted to sell some more of their link building.
Yeah, right. Well, it's just crazy. There's I saw Yaks got ripped off by somebody else, which is Jesper's tool, and it's just crazy. We're in a scummy industry. There's no question. Anyways, thanks guys. Thanks for sticking around for an extra couple minutes. We'll